Welcome to the 19th episode of Teachers Glasses Presents Bollywood Talkies with Outlook. I'm your host, Mitrajit Bhattacharya, and my guest tonight is a national award-winning filmmaker who left a glittering advertising career at its peak to concentrate on making feature films. It has indeed been cinema's gain and advertising's loss. It's my pleasure to welcome R. Balki to Teachers Glasses Presents Bollywood Talkies with Outlook.
Thank you.
How and when did you join advertising?
I was doing my master's in computer applications. And one day I've always been interested in feature films. And I saw an ad in the papers from an advertising agency, which was Mudra at that point in time, which said, "Tell me in 100 words the person you are." Okay. So I said, for once, somebody's asking me who I am. So I replied to the ad only because on top of the ad was that logo that used to come after every Bunyad episode. So I thought that was an ad which was put out by Ramesh Sippy asking for people. So I was damn happy. And I said, Ramesh Sippy is asking who I am. So I wrote it. I didn't realize that point in time Mudra was the production company and it produced Bunyad. And that's why that logo used to come at the end of every episode. So I didn't get all that. So I replied and I got addicted to advertising after that for many, many years. And then the films happened.
So how many years was your stint at Mudra?
Mudra was about 7 years, and then afterwards, ever since then at Lintas, 19-20 years at Lintas. At Low, yeah.
So you reached the very top in advertising and have seen the movement which saw creatives taking control in large agencies from the suits. Did you enjoy being a part of the movement?
It was a movement waiting to happen. It was not, in fact, it was a movement almost engineered by clients all across, because clients wanted to speak to people who were doing the ads, not the people who were kind of, and they wanted to go to agencies which had people who were producing work for them rather than the businessmen. So I think it was an inevitable kind of a movement that happened. So yeah, me and Piyush were actually at the beginning of that entire thing. He was a little before me, and then I got on board. So I think between Low and Ogilvy, I think the so-called transformation happened of creative being at the center of the business.
I have picked 3 ad films or campaigns from your long and illustrious career at Low. Would want you to take us through highlights, challenges, and satisfaction of creating those campaigns. Let's start with Jagore for Tata Tea, that went on from being a concept to a movement.
I remember when we were actually pitching for the business of Tata Tea at that point in time. I remember my creative director Amer Jalil and me sitting at Moshe's. That time it was Moshe's in Juhu. We met there, and we were sitting in a coffee shop to crack a tea ad. And I was just sitting there, and I was asking him, and he was discussing the various points of the brief about what they wanted. They wanted this, they wanted that. I said, no, it's all sounding very familiar. I said, see, we are doing an ad for Tata Tea. Forget where the leaves came from, forget how it's packed, forget all that stuff. That's what everybody has been saying for so many years. Let's think of what is different about Tata Tea from all other teas. And the only biggest difference is Tata. So Tata Tea has Tata, obviously other teas don't. So every tea you wake up in the morning and have the tea. So when you have Tata Tea, what should it do? Should it just wake you up like it does, like every other tea does? Or should it awaken you? So can it wake you up in a bigger way? So how do you say better tea, stronger tea and everything else if it wakes you up to newer thoughts and better thoughts and away? Right. So the Jagore thing happened, just don't wake up, awaken was the thought. And that's how Jagore kind of happened from that particular thought. Then we did various ads. So when we told the client, they were of course thrilled with it. We got the business. So Jagore became a movement from then on.
The second one has become a part of the popular culture and lingo. Daag Achhe Hai for Surf Excel. Did you know the campaign would become so big?
I always thought there was a lot of power in an idea where a product celebrates its biggest competitor, which is dirt. So instead of saying how good I am, if I'm really good, I shouldn't be worried about the competition. I should always praise the competition, because that's when you're very confident about yourself. So go ahead, get dirty. I'm always there. So it's always, unless you're sure of your abilities, you would never praise the competition. That's why Daag Achhe Hai for me, from a very product point of view, became very important. I knew it was a very powerful statement. And when we did that first ad, It was a beautiful process. It was like I remember sitting in the room, and again, other creative director had come to my room, and we were sitting and chatting about this. So I told him, "Listen, I know how this ad should be. I get this. I have a funny feeling that this ad should be something like in Sadma, where Kamal is kind of doing all kinds of things, tumbling around and kind of thing, making Sridevi laugh. I see two kids, I see a brother and a sister, and I see this thing happening, and I've seen that she's crying, and he should make her laugh by getting dirty." And he said, Maggie, what we can do? He said, see, when a kid falls, if you rub the portion where it's hurt, the kid will cry louder. But if you bash the table, which has hurt her or him, the kid will start laughing because you're almost punishing the enemy. So why can't the kid kind of just bash the puddle where the girl has fallen? So it'll make the girl laugh. I said, it's a superb idea, beautiful idea. And that's how the first the Dagache, the puddle war first came up. And Dagache was a progression from, we had always had this thought of Surf Excel Henna before that. And Surf Excel Henna was also the same thought. If you're so confident, Surf Excel Henna, go get dirty, Surf Excel Henna was always the third. Then it progressed to Dagache. Dirt is good. Why? See, it makes your kid laugh. If you're worried about the dirt, you wouldn't be able to make your sister laugh. She'll be crying. So it always had positive effects of dirt. And that's how that became a big campaign.
Invariably, you can guess my third one, Kya Idea Surji. All these three campaigns have creative taglines that are easy and seem more user-generated messaging than forced brand communication, which has been quite the hallmark of all these three campaigns, and that is how they connected probably with the audiences at large. So talk about how Kya Idea Surji came about.
I have worked on Idea right from the day the brand was formed. Sanjeev Aga was the CEO.
That's
and we were going on ahead with the stuff till we signed on Abhishek as the brand ambassador. And I was telling Sanjeev for a long time, you have a brand name like Idea. I mean, every ad should make people, you can't have a brand name like Idea and say my tariff is so-and-so, my this is so-and-so, or I have good network, you should say what an idea. So tell me some ideas this brand has. And you said, how could the brand have ideas? You need to give ideas about this brand this way. So we said, okay, every ad must make people say what an idea. That's how you must say. And therefore, what a network, what this thing will come out of it. But the idea itself should say that. So we did the first caste war campaign, which actually was about, if everybody in the world had only a number and not a name, you would not know anybody's caste and there wouldn't be any caste war. So Idea can have a much bigger platform. Hey, what an idea. The same thing was for education. Why do you need so many expensive schools? Why can't one school beam their lessons to, it was much before all what is happening today. It was one of those ads that came long back where remote education, people sitting in villages could get the best education from anywhere. Or the population control ad, or they understand. Each one of those things started off by simple thing, we need to create an ad where people say, what an idea. And that should be the thought.
So did you see the new merged entity logo and communication which have just come out, which is for the new brand called V, which has a promise of together for tomorrow for the merged entity. So do you like it, first of all? Any take? Because you have been on one side of the merged entity for a long time yourself.
See, I don't think it's a question of like or not like. I think it was inevitable that it had to happen. For various reasons, it had to happen. I think the brand is too much in its infancy to kind of judge it right now. I think a lot of things is just started. It's almost like a new brand. So I think time will tell.
Moving to movies now. How and where did you get the idea of Chinikam? Again, Chinikam is such an easy phrase, and the movie was such a breath of fresh air.
Actually, I got Chinikam the idea when I was trying to crack a Lifebuoy ad, and I was not able to crack it. I took a walk around the office. Okay. And I came back with an idea saying that, hey, I want to do this one because I just finished a Parker ad with Amitji a month ago, I think, before that. And he was always on my mind because the joy of shooting with Amitabh Bachchan, and it was one of his very first ads after his long gap. He came back to do Parker as an ad after BPL, I think. Then there was a long gap, and then Parker happened. So it was on my mind. So somehow I got this idea. And for me, the hallmark of Amitabh Bachchan was his sarcasm, was his poker-faced, lines. So he was a Chinikam man to me. I mean, he wasn't too sweet a guy in anything. He would say, he's not a guy like that, but he comes across as a person like that. He's got this, blank face, and he has these one-liners which are like that, without laughing, that he would say something like that. And that's the impression I had of him from his movies. So that's what I wanted to capture. So I said, here is this Caduce, sarcastic man. I want to do a love story with Bachchan and Tabu. And I did that, and I needed a twist. And I said, okay, let's make this father-in-law younger than him. So what it would be. So that's how that happened. Actually happened during a Lifebuoy ad.
Your second movie actually announced your arrival as a filmmaker. 4 national awards, 14 nominations at Star Screen Awards, and 5 wins. Pa was clearly the toast of B-Town in 2009 and 10. Obviously, the awards were in 2010. So did Pa challenge you as a filmmaker, as it was a complex movie to make?
Actually, if I thought of it as a complex movie, I would never have done it because budgets did allow me to think like that. I actually thought of it as a very simplistic movie. In fact, the idea happened one day when I'd gone to meet Amitji, something on Chinikam, some promotion part of it. And there he was sitting, cracking some jokes, behaving very foolishly. And there was Abhishek kind of saying some very wise things to him.
Okay.
I said, this guy's behaving like his dad, this guy's behaving like his... If I ever do a film with them, I must twist the roles. I never thought that I would do a realistic film twisting their roles like this. And I discovered this ailment called, and I just wrote it blindly. And I had no clue how I would make Amitabh. I didn't even think, I have to make Amitabh small, how to this thing. I had no clue. And I said, okay, let's try that. I got the look, progeria, patience. We did the prosthetics, we did all that stuff. And we were first doing the test shoot. When we were doing the test shoot, PC Shriram, my cameraman,
Right.
suddenly looked at the stuff. Aki, this looks very scary. How are we going to do this? He's looking damn scary. How? I said, I don't know. He said, I didn't think of it. How do you make him small? I said, shit. This is actually how we didn't think of shrinking him. We didn't think of anything else. But we didn't have the money for VFX. So we were thinking of it. We knew something at the back of our heads, but we didn't articulate it. And then as he was coming, and Amitji's head was so big in the film. So PC was trying all kinds of angles. Suddenly he jumped on top of a table and he used an 8mm lens or something. And then he said, Baki, come and see this. So when you have a wide angle lens and a very big object like a head on top of it, the rest of the body kind of just shrinks because that becomes so big. So if you see that we shot most of the film, I mean, as much as is possible, because there are some shots which gives it real skill. But most of it from a toppish weight so that he looks small. So it was a simple technique that we used to kind of try and make him look small. And we said we shouldn't worry about the size and everything else, it's about the emotion of the film, and we went on along with that stuff. So it was almost like a very innocent journey into this. We didn't think too much of how we're going to do this, what we're going to do. We stumbled upon things as we went on.
Do you remember how many awards you picked up for that movie overall?
From the advertising days, I've never entered any awards.
That's
in
right.
You need to enter awards. So I've always been anti-awards. So
Other than Effie,
even Effie, I was not for it. It was for the management of the agency that they wanted to do it. And some of the clients, so they entered it, and I had no role to play in any of the awards that we ever won because I was always against any award. And I follow the same thing with feature films. In feature films, you don't enter; they give it to you. Right. But I don't go for many awards, except there are only 2 times I've gone. One is when Amitji was going to win, and he said, "You bloody well be there," and all that stuff. So for the Screen Awards and I think the National Awards, I was there when he was winning. And again, when Gauri was winning for English to English, it was the only other time I accompanied her to a lot of awards, but I normally don't go for many of these shows. I actually did go and attend one full show to shoot it actually for Shamitabh. I didn't go to attend it for anything else. But I was, I don't remember winning anything. I don't think I've won anything at all in my life because it's, I think the film that's won or it's the people that have won it. And that's what's happened. I'm really proud of people associated or in the film actually winning far more than anything else. And I'm good. I mean, it's all one night of fun and I don't remember it afterwards anyway.
So your third venture with Big B was the most experimental, but probably the least successful at the box office, which is Shamitabh. Did you take too much risk with the format of storytelling with the movie?
No, I didn't. In fact, I went the same way as I did this. Went wrong with this confidence of, it was one experiment we did in this film was to dub the whole film first and then act to the dub. I don't think any film has been done before like that, where we dub the full film and Dhanush acts to the dub. It's a tough kind of, so Amitji actually shot the film twice. He dubbed the whole thing once and then he acted for Dhanush in the dubbing studio and then Dhanush acted to it and then came back and dubbed for himself again all across. So he did that twice. Which is one of those things, I think I went a little overboard in my experimentation with the film. I think it was too indulgent and it went off. Today, if I were to do the film, it's a very special film to me because it was an ode to Amitji's voice. But I feel very depressed. I still feel depressed because I didn't do justice to that great voice as much as I wanted to do because I went overboard in scripting and I got a few things wrong, which is quite obvious. And today, if I did the film, it would be very, very different from what I did before.
So the movie also gave us the iconic Pidli song. Tell us a bit about how you created Pidli, the concept, the composition, the singing. We all know that you're a fan of Ilaiyaraaja. In fact, we have seen a quote of yours which says it's his music that got you interested in cinema in the first place. Talk about the bond you share with him. So talk a bit on Pidli, talk a bit on the composition and the singing and Ilaiyaraaja.
Ilaiyaraaja is a dream because I used to see a lot of English films before when I was in Bangalore. I never used to see a lot of regional language films. Yeah, English and maybe I used to see some Bachchan films. Then suddenly one day I was I went with some neighbors of mine, a very dear, who I call her my aunt. She had taken me to this film and I suddenly heard this music. I don't know about the film was nice, it was fun, but the music gave me so much life. And it's the first time I started listening to music. It had so many images in my head going out. And I said I would see every film with this, whoever's composed this music. And that's how I got to know Ilaiyaraaja. I was a huge fan of his and I listened to a lot of his music. I mean, everybody listened to his music. I was not the only fan. And then when I did my first film, that was the first time I met him. And he was such a joy. He was like almost a child. And I found it so easy to work with him. Not because I was a fan, just because he was a man who never had grown up. He never thought he had done 900 films at that point of time. And he just did it like he was doing his first film. He had so much fun. He had a lot of, and it was so simple. And I enjoy working with him because I think, like in Pidli, he did the tune, I think, in 3 minutes. He was something, and he said, dun da 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 dun da da da. That's all he did. And Swanand and I remember looking at each other. Swanand wrote a lot of things for it. I just kept saying, no. It has to be simple. It has to be it has to flow like that. So because he doesn't know Hindi so well, he looks at the sound of the word. So Swanand suddenly came and said, okay, Swanand, I told him, let's shoot this. I want to shoot this song in the loo. Yeah. So he's singing from the loo because he has to be in that studio. So let's do something with Peen. Swan came with this Pidli Sibak thing. So it happened like Pidli. So I gave her this thing. It just happened like that. And Swanand wrote that whole song in about, I think, half an hour after that. After many, many iterations, just in half an hour, he came up with the whole song. So I remember that very, very vividly. Because Dhanush, I think the biggest experience with Shamitabh, yes, it started as an ode to Amitji's voice, but my biggest experience of Shamitabh was meeting Dhanush also. I think I met a great actor during that stuff, and I valued the one thing I wouldn't change in the Shamitabh was Dhanush, because I think he's a great, great actor.
Hats off to you for making Amitabh Bachchan sit in a loo on a commode and use the health faucet as the mic and sing Pidli. It will remain one of the most iconic songs of modern cinema. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. I read all Ilaiyaraaja, so nothing to do with me.
The sheer variety of films you have chosen to do clearly talks about the versatility of you as a filmmaker. A metro couple's coming of age marriage story in Ki and Ka, followed by a hugely successful biopic with a social message in Padman. The latter was also your first collaboration with Akshay Kumar. So how was it working with Akshay?
He's like a true creative partner. He's not just an actor that I work with. I think Akshay adds invaluable things. Very easy to work with, very simple to communicate. He gets it. I get what he wants to do. And the shooting process is not one of stress. So of course, all that always happens, but it's one of, let's do this, let's try this, let's do that. It's always on the ball in that time. So it's a very, very energized and, fully aware kind of a process during shoot that happens. And I enjoy working with him, discussing with him, even the ads that I do. I think he comes up with gems every now and then. He adds whacked out stuff. It's all about just saying what to say no to. Yeah. And what to accept is the challenge of any director with Akshay, because he'll come up with 1,000 things. You just have to say, yes, no, you get only 1 second to kind of just decide, and he just moves on and he's very disciplined. So there's no question of it teaches you also to be very disciplined. And he's a great creative mind. What I found is he's a great guy to rap with. And of course, my biggest joy in Padman was I think he's a phenomenal actor. I think I've never seen anybody do 7-page dialogue scene in one take without anything else, with full emotions. I have only one take of that climax scene of Padman, and I shot it in 3 cameras. So therefore, you have cuts. But I don't have any other take. He just did the whole thing from the heart in one shot, and I've never seen that happen before.
Your biggest commercial success came with your second collaboration with Akshay Kumar in Mission Mangal last year, where you were the writer and the creative director, and also with a huge ensemble cast of Vidya and Tapsi and Kriti, all of them. A complex movie to visualize and plan?
Yes, I think a lot of credit needs to go to, of course, Jagan,
Right.
the director, for doing it, but more also to the VFX guys who pulled it off with a very low budget to pull off that, besides the actors, and great for Akshay to support that kind of film because it had the template. It is a
Right.
proper mainstream underdogs winning kind of a story, which was perfect for the time. So those kind of things are almost sure shot winners, always. So I think that's the kind of story that that has all the families kind of coming into. But the film that was the far more challenging thing for me and Akshay to do was Padman, because we were actually kind of trying to make an entertaining film with sanitary napkins and to a
Right.
family audience. That was a phenomenal challenge.
Name your favorite feature filmmakers anywhere in the world.
During the COVID times, I have discovered Bimal Roy, who I'd never seen his films before. I have discovered Shyam Benegal, rediscovered some, and really discovered Shyam Benegal. I think he's a master. I think I've discovered Dilip Kumar, the actor, who's phenomenal. Besides them, I've seen a lot of Ray and Gurudutt and all these films, which everybody has seen, or if they have not, they should. But I think the filmmakers that I truly, I can't name filmmakers, but I can name the films that I've enjoyed.
Correct.
I think it's
Absolutely. Go
better
ahead
to
with
do
that.
that. I think
Yeah.
I like Balu Mahendra's Moonram Pirai, which is my all-time favorite film
Right.
in Indian cinema. I like Manmohan Desai's some of his films, like Naseeb to me. I still have arguments with Amit Ji. He doesn't. I say that's your best film. I keep saying that again and again. And I like a lot of some Marathi films that I've seen, which are superb. That Gabricha Paus was one of the most beautiful films that I've seen. I like a lot of terrific masala Telugu film guys do. I like Iga of Rajamouli. I think it's one of his best work, one of the most wonderful pieces of work. I like a lot of mainstream cinema, and I like a lot of Malayalam films which are being made. Recently I saw Fahad Fazil's films. I like as an actor. I think he's done Komalangi Nights, he's done Trance, he's done See You Soon Now. I think he's a fabulous, one of the finest performers in recent time. Otherwise, as international filmmakers, I like a lot of all of Majid Majidi's films, of course. I like any of Wes Anderson's films. See, it depends on the mood that I am. Sometimes I'm in the mood for a Fassbinder film. Sometimes in the mood for a random film. I'm a huge fan of Woody Allen. I love all of Woody Allen films. And to me, if I want to say, and a lot of Clint Eastwood films, the films that he directed. To me, the icons, as far as I'm concerned, in cinema are Woody Allen and Clint Eastwood as filmmakers. Because I think Clint Eastwood at 90 now, if he has made that film, the Mule, when he was 90, to play a 90-year-old, it's outstanding. And Woody Allen, anything, he can just do a deleted scene also. I think I would see it 1,000 times. And I think Woody Allen is one of those rare. He deserves a museum by himself, for himself, in every country in the world. I don't think there is a greater thinker and a greater filmmaker and writer than.
Any web series or documentary series which you have seen during COVID?
I saw Mrs. America. I saw a lot of the Americans, the series Mrs. America. Then, of course, some of the Indian ones, Patal Lok, I saw.
Are you making anything for OTT? Are you planning something for OTT?
Not planning something, just some ideas are brewing. I've not yet written anything. But yeah, I'd like to, but the idea must be good enough because it's an investment of time is a lot there. And
Correct.
The idea must be damn good for me to kind of want to spend that kind of time. I watched so many series in the last 6 months that I don't even remember so much of it. So much on Netflix, so much on Amazon, so much on Hotstar. I'm trying to think platform by platform. I would have watched so many.
Did you get a chance to see The Social Dilemma?
Oh, I just saw it recently. Fabulous. I just saw it 2 days back. I saw that, and I saw a Wes Anderson film again. Royal Tenenbaums I saw recently again. Then I just finished Mrs. America. I saw Olive Kittredge.
What has been the biggest high in your professional career, and any regrets?
I think every time you crack an ad, it's a professional high. Every time you crack, I think that's what in a film or an ad, the highs are not when you finish something. Highs are when you crack the thought, when you finish the script, when you're writing at that point in time.
Right.
The high is only when you're doing it, when you're cracking the ad, not when it's out. But because that's a low. It's almost like the nasha is. I like to use the word the addiction. Like any creative profession is like an addiction. It's like an addiction. And today the famous thing is to talk about drugs. So it's like a drug. Any creative profession is like a drug. So you're addicted to it. A high every time you crack it, and a low every time the cracking is over and it's over. It's a low. Then you need the next high again to kind of crack it. So a film also is like that. So to me, any time I do, whether good or bad, whatever, when I'm doing it, it's a huge high.
Which movie of yours you're most proud of?
The film that I'm most proud of is English for English, because to me, it's a complete film. It's a beautifully written film, beautifully done film. Great joy working with Sridevi. And I did a thing that I never did before, was produce a film. And to me, that was a new experience. I had written, writing films is a longer way of writing ads. But this is something that I'd never done before. So to me, it was a new experience. And it's an experience very close. We struggled a lot to make that film. It's a dear experience. I'm very closely involved. To me, that's my greatest high would be English. To be associated with English.
And any regrets?
The regret was always that I didn't get Shamitabh right.
Your wife, Gauri, is an acclaimed filmmaker, and we were just talking about her debut movie, which is English for English. And you often collaborate with her on projects in various capacities, as you were talking about being a producer for English for English.
No, I don't collaborate.
So my question is, how is the creative energy between both of you? The creative energy.
No. After English for English, we have not collaborated. When I was in advertising, yes, we've collaborated on a few films.
Right.
She's done the Tanishq marriage. She's done the Havels Wires film for me, which I've written. But otherwise, we have decided not to collaborate, though we share the same office and though we share the same production company. She does her own thing, I do one thing. It's tough for two people to kind of collaborate after a certain point of time. When you become independent, when you're surer of your own craft, I don't think you need inputs that you may feel you want. You never needed inputs, because I don't think anybody really needs inputs. What they need is a sounding board. Right. And once you're confident of yourself, you don't need it. And then you become a kind of a unnecessary interference rather than a thing. And you become a pain in the ass rather than being a collaborator. So it's best to do things ourselves. And I don't think we...
But do you discuss work? I mean, even
of course we discuss work. But when we disagree, we decide to kind of follow our own instincts and not necessarily the instincts of the other person. That's something we have a very healthy respect for. It's not because she says something not good, I drop it or I take it. I think about it and I go, and she does exactly the same thing.
What makes Balki angry, and how does Balki unwind?
Falsely manipulating the truth. It makes me very angry. I think sometimes media makes me very angry about the truth. I think people sometimes, when in a creative profession, I think it's the most fundamental thing that you need is honesty about who did what. And if somebody starts taking credit for things that they don't do or they didn't do, that makes me really, really angry. Because I come from a background, from an agency background, where since having been the head of the agency, the best thing that I could offer to people was at least the credit for things that they did.
Right.
And, it's very easy for me to say I did everything, because finally the credit actually comes to me for anything that they all do. But it's my job to make sure that I need to go out of my way to make sure that they get the credit for things that they do, because it's important. That's all a creative person has. And I know in my life, I've seen a lot of people taking credit for things that they never have done, or wanting to take more of the credit than they really like. That really angers me, because I think there is where all honesty in creativity begins, not anywhere else.
How do you unwind?
I watch cricket, I watch more series, I watch movies. It's like all of us. I'm addicted to cricket and movies, and that's what I do. And I have my cat, and I unwind a lot with my cat.
That's why I had to quickly do this interview before IPL had started, which is going to be very soon.
I wouldn't be addicted to the IPL. I've been watching the England-Australia series, but I will, I think, because there's nothing else to watch.
So what's next, Balki?
I've just finished writing a film and I'm waiting to start doing it. So let's hope for the best in the next 3-4 months.
You've locked in the studio or just finished writing?
Just finished writing, so all that work is in progress.
Now, we are coming towards the end of the interview. I just want you to give short one-word answers. Name one genuine actor and director in commercial movies today.
If I take Indian cinema and not necessarily just Hindi cinema, I would say Fahad Fazil does it most of the time today. I think Anubhav Sinha is trying to do it most of the time today. I think he does it. Have liked Kangana in a lot of roles that she has done. As a performer, I like Kangana, I like Alia, I like Ranveer. I like Ranveer, who does a lot of things that new every time he does. Yeah. But amongst all the people, I find Fahad Fazil in the South and Dhanush in the South as two people who constantly try out new things. And Fahad, to me, is really doing cutting-edge stuff.
A movie you felt, I wish I had directed it.
I wish I could do any of Manmohan Desai films, for sure. I wish I could do any of Shyam Benegal films, for sure. But the movie I wish I did in the recent past, to me, it'll always be 3 films that I wish I directed. Was Lagan, was Satya, and was English for English. I think these to me, 3 are the 3 classics in 3 different directions, according to me.
Favorite city in the world?
London.
Places on your bucket list?
Israel. I want to spend some time in Israel. I'm fascinated with Israel.
Thank you, R. Balki, for talking to me in Teachers Glasses, which presents Bollywood Talkies with Outlook.
My pleasure.
Stay safe. See you on the other side of the break.
See you. Thank you. The hallmark of Amitabh Bachchan was his sarcasm, was his poker-faced, lines. So he was a chini-cum man to me. I mean, he wasn't too sweet a guy in anything. He would say, he's not a guy like that, but he comes across as a person like that. He's got this, blank face, and he has these one-liners which are like that, without laughing, that he would say something like that. And that's the impression I had of him from his movies. So that's what I wanted to capture. So I said, here is this Kadus, sarcastic man. I want to do a love story with Bachchan and Tabu. And I did that, and I needed a twist. And I said, okay, let's make this father-in-law younger than him. So what it would be. So that's how that happened. It actually happened during a Life Boy ad.